You just tuned it in.
Global and worldwide.
Hitting you on the one with no delay. Because it's the fighter's voice.
The Fighter's Voice.
With your fighting host, Richard Ortiz.
And the formidable co-host,
Mr. Cole Escovedo. Remember, every fighter has a voice.
Fresno, California, the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show, the only voice that matters. Today we have with us ESPN Top Ranks own the beautiful Crystina Poncher. I mean, when you give her a title, you can give her many roles. She's the voice that needs to be heard. She's the woman that needs to be seen. Enough said, because I can go on, but I don't want to forget about my co-host with the most, the UFC veteran, the one, the only, Mr. Cole Escovedo. How we doing, Cole?
What would they do it to me?
I don't know, man. I mean, I barely can handle one of you, man.
I can barely handle one of me. And I got two kids that are just like, wow.
But what I'm saying, can the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show handle the one, the only Miss Christina?
I don't know, that's a high
Poncher.
price, man. That's a high menu right there.
Christina, it's okay to say hello. The mic does not bite.
I know, what is this thing? I've never seen one of these before.
No, never.
You talk into this, right? This is
exactly.
I'm like, is this thing on?
Exactly. You know what I like about her? She was doing the show yesterday, ESPN, and you like the ad lib. I love the fact that you do that.
I feel like in this business you kind of have to. I mean, if everything's so scripted and then it's not you, it's not as natural. You have to ad lib a little bit, and usually Bob Arum is to my right, and he's just the master of all when it comes to just speaking his mind and what he wants to say,
and funny at the same time.
It was this fight and the cause that I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more later, but it was kind of heavy in that room, talking about cancer and everything. So I just felt like a few moments just lighten it up a little bit and be myself, and it was fun to have a little more of an open mic and a platform.
You opened it up and everybody was laughing, everybody was joining. I love the part. And I'm gonna have to borrow that one day when I'm dealing with oh gosh, because I don't speak the language.
Chinese, it was a Japanese fighter,
and you acted like the interpreter. He said, "Well, what he said, I love that. I'm gonna borrow." I was already thinking, "Well, I'm gonna borrow that later on, but just not right now because they'll know I took it away."
Well, yeah, I saw somebody was doing an interview with him. I saw Mike posted something.
Yeah, Hiroki Okada. He's in our co-main event against Ray Beltran, and his translator is actually a Caucasian man who speaks Japanese, but
very well.
Very well. He's been so helpful, and so he was on the dais and he's answering the questions that I'm asking him in Japanese, and I introduced the translator. I'm like, well, what he said was, and I was gonna go on to translate. And I was like, all right, let me bring it back and let
she was gonna translate, and I was just, whoa, that kind of loosened everybody up.
It almost takes two translations. Almost, it's what he asks and how he answers him, and then how he answers him and how he translates the answer to you. Because what he said isn't what he tells you. It's almost like there's a loss in translation. You got to kind of ad lib when you answer the translation.
That's the hardest part too. I don't feel like the way that we accentuate certain words and just the way I ask it, or if I'm kind of being funny about something, it doesn't necessarily translate the same way.
Context doesn't translate. It's like when you lose emotion through texting, the context is lost.
But he did a great job. He does. Lauren does a great job for Okada.
Wonderful man. Yeah, very professional. And talking about professional, let's jump right into it. When did you wake up and say, I want to do this for a living? I mean, were you actually looking in the mirror, grabbing the deodorant bar or the brush and saying, hey, this is Crystina Poncher? I mean, when did that come about? What exactly did you grow up wanting to do? And is this the dream that you were chasing?
This is my dream come true. I was 14 years old and knew that I wanted to be a sports reporter. When I was younger, I didn't know it, but I used to record myself like talking to my Barbies or talking to my stuffed animals in the room, and then I would play it back, and then I would go on the other side and like listen to myself and things like that. I didn't know that was grooming me really for what I wanted to do long term. But my goal, I grew up in Southern California wanting to be a Lakers fan. Maybe that's not as popular about here. You got the Kings and stuff. But I wanted to be a sideline reporter for the Lakers, and I just, I always knew I wanted to work in sports, and I didn't necessarily know that it was going to lead me to boxing. But I knew I played basketball, I played sports my whole life. I've been a lover of sports, so I knew. Once I got to high school and I didn't reach past 5'4", that my collegiate basketball career was really not going to come along. But if I could talk hoops,
maybe a point guard.
I could talk. I mean, and I played the shooting guard, and my jumper's nice. But I just
what number did you rock?
Huh?
What number did you rock?
Number 10. That's my number. Number 10.
Know what? Okay. Confirmation, Richie. Confirmation, Richie. No, I wore number 10.
Did
my
you?
son wears 10. That was my daughter wear 10.
Yeah.
So I picked it because Pelea. Why'd you pick it?
Oh, I don't know. I've just always I don't even remember originally why. Maybe it was just the first number that was given
I was
to me.
gonna say, it
And
was
I
probably
stuck
like the
with
only
it.
number that was available.
Yeah,
Coach
maybe.
was like,
I was like second grade.
"See, what do you want? 7.
Yeah.
You get 10.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
moving
it.
on."
Yeah,
It was the
just stuck
jersey
with it.
that was size small, not medium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the only one we got,
the higher
10.
the number, the higher the.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
so
go.
this is doing a sports commentary, being a reporter, being around athletes, talking sports is what I wanted to do my whole life, and honestly, it is a dream come true.
You know, you ask the questions that need to be asked, and they give the answers sometimes that need to be answered at that time. Have you ever had just a one-on-one where this guy or female is just spilling, and you're thinking man, I really didn't want to go there, but let's go.
In terms of volunteering more information
Exactly.
than what I was looking for.
Exactly.
Sometimes, I mean, I was on a run. I had a couple sit-down interviews with some fighters, and like 2 fighters back to back cried in the interview, and everyone's looking at me. And my producer was like, "Okay, Oprah, like what's going on here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I didn't
These guys
mean
are fighting tomorrow,
I didn't
right?
mean to make them cry. Like what's
Yeah.
going on?" But sometimes when they're cutting weight, everything it gets a
Emotions.
little bit emotional.
Yeah.
And guys that are on the brink of, if they lose this fight, they get dropped by the promoter, or it's the last opportunity. So some of those are the most vulnerable moments. Not only are they hungry, but they're physically, literally hungry because they're making weight, but just these guys' lives are on the line. This is not a
Exactly.
game for them. So yeah, I've had some moments where people have, delved into some pretty personal, raw emotions. And I try to bring that across when I'm commentating their fight, and just let people know that, they call it the fight game, but it's not a game to these fighters at all.
No. I mean, it's a lifestyle. And I was sharing with Rick Merrigan, and we'll talk more about it, that when you're fighting cancer, there is no bell. There is no mouthpiece. There is no sparring. There is no training to get ready for it. These fighters have the luxury of hearing a bell. They get their 3 minutes into the corner, or what have you, 2 minutes, what have you, depending on amateurs or professionals, and they never stop fighting. Before I dive right into it, I just want to ask you, what's your whole take on that? I mean, the whole, cancer awareness and what Rick's doing and just giving back.
Well, I think it's phenomenal. I mean, Rick has done a great job as a promoter and as a manager, tying a cause to the platform that he's been given. And I think that's really important for athletes and people that have been, blessed by God to have this opportunity to have a platform and a voice, to use it for something positive and something good. And that is a cause that touches close to home for Rick, as his mother is battling with it, his stepfather, touches Jose's heart as he's lost 2 grandparents to cancer. And I feel like everybody, whether you've been affected directly or indirectly by the disease, it's something that everybody can rally behind and come together to help to do their part to fight against.
Exactly.
And the fact that the tickets to the fight proceed, I think $3 from every ticket being sold or every voucher donated.
That's a chunk of change.
That is, and that's you're getting something in return because you're getting the entertainment value of the fight, right? But you also can feel good about the fact that, whether you knew that or not, you're donating to help raise awareness for this cause that affects so many people. And I think it's phenomenal what they've done with this promotion and tying it to the cause.
Are you going to wear purple tomorrow?
I am going to wear a shade of purple, not to
There you
match,
go.
because I have to be impartial in the sense that I'm commentating the fight. So,
Yeah.
Jose is wearing purple, and we know Gabe Flores Jr. is wearing purple. They've been
Oh,
a big
yeah.
part of it.
Okay.
So I'm wearing a shade of purple to show my support.
Yeah, you're gonna say Switzerland.
But I can't be like matchy because they're like, oh, well, we know who
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah, so
you're
when the
commentating
commentating part
for.
comes on this fight, they're
Yeah.
gonna go, well, this is gonna be a Jose.
Or like Christina's going for Jose. Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine all 3 judges wearing purple shirts? Just
How intimidating for your opponent.
If I walked out to that and I
They
saw
say
that,
Team
I'd be
Romero's
like,
on the collar right
yeah,
here.
dude, I'd be like, that's not right.
You're like, it's already. Like, I just got to knock this guy out, right?
Man.
It's going to the cards. It's a wrap.
Dude, I've seen some weird stuff like that happen. Like, I've seen a guy get dropped before. The ref stopped the fight,
Yeah.
gave the dude an 8 count. This is a cage fight. Gave the dude an 8 count, and everybody was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you stopped
Wow.
the fight. That's it." And he was like, "No, 7." And shook his
Oh
arm.
my gosh.
Let it
Woke
go.
him up,
Wake
gave
up.
him some water, right?
Yeah,
Revived
no,
him.
just let him go, and then he knocked the other guy out.
He came back. So
Yeah, it was-
so he waved it off and then gave a count.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
waved,
crazy.
and the ref is predominantly a boxing ref.
Okay.
And he went into full
Oh, did he?
autopilot. Yeah, he went into full
wow.
autopilot. And the cornermen are trying to climb over the cage, doing anything they can to interrupt the fight because they're like, dude, that's it. Our rules, you stopped it. That's it. It's over.
That's crazy.
So you got to be as biased as possible, but it's rough
Unbiased,
in all aspects of it. It's rough. If I came out and judges were wearing the same color, I'd be like, so we can't let it go. We can't let it go.
No, you can't. Which leads up to my next question. Man, I know you got some stories to tell. What's the craziest thing that you witnessed when you were doing live TV?
There's a couple. I mean, crazy.
You're saying
I work in boxing. There's
a
a lot of crazy stuff that's happened. I mean, when I had to look at Oscar Valdez's mouth after the fight with Scott Quigg, where his jaw was broken in 3 spots, and his teeth are in that was at StubHub.
Yeah,
yes,
it was raining
a year ago in March, and his the bottom half of his mouth is in the middle of the. I mean, it's just his teeth. He doesn't know because he hasn't looked at himself. Same thing. I did a fight with Mike Alvarado against Ray Nar was the opponent. And we get ready to do the post-fight interview, and his lip is split from here all the way up to his nose. And he's like, "Are you ready? Can we do the interview?" I said, "You need to go to the hospital, like right now. We cannot."
Yeah. Like, has no one told you, sir? You have something on your face.
Yeah, like
where's your corner?
He doesn't know because the fight's
It's
over
not
and he's
sweat,
cut.
it's blood.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've physically seen some pretty gnarly injuries. The Pacquiao getting knocked out by Marquez, just flat.
Right there.
Sorry, just
no, there
flat
you go.
on the canvas. Just the energy in that arena, it got silent for a second, and then the pure jubilation of the Marquez fans that they finally
Once they
got
realized
that
it
win.
happened,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just been some crazy cornermen trying to run in and fight the other corner when the fight's over. I mean, there's some crazy things that happen. Fighters breaking down in the locker room. Crying after a fight, that's
actually pretty common. That's actually like, you'd be surprised
that they look so macho, and then I'm back in the locker room and they're just sobbing and their wife's holding on to them. There's that raw emotion. There's a lot of
that's a dump. That's an adrenaline dump, like emotional adrenaline dump. It gets
guys
bad.
passing out at the weigh-ins because they need it. Mikey Garcia needing an IV in the elevator in Texas or one of his fights because he almost killed himself making weight.
Yeah. That's where the percentages of weight cutting start to play a factor and why it's so important. The new rules are starting to be implemented. The percentage is so important.
There should be some changes there. That's pretty.
It's just weight cutting.
I've seen
in general.
some guys that look like skeletons of themselves in fighter meetings. If they even show up because they're trying to make weight, and then the next night, it's insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there's some pretty crazy things.
That's some craziness, man. But I tell you, you know what the real craziness is? Because we're going to knock out these bills right now and pay some sponsorship. But we got to go commercial break. But we got to come back because there's so much I want to ask you and so much I want to cover. And I'm just letting her roll, man. I just wanted to, right. a couple fights. But when you're going and going, I'm just here watching. I'm amazed. And everybody wants to watch and be amazed. Hey, Rich Ortiz here with the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show. We'll be coming right back.
Hi, I'm Jose Ramirez.
I'm Bob Arum.
Hi, I'm Robert Garcia, and I'm with the Fighter's Voice.
The only radio show knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice Radio Show.
Hey, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rich Ortiz with the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show. Back from commercial break. I'm going to keep it real with you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't ever want to cheat you out of any good content. My co-host and our guest, we just had some great off-the-air content, so I want to relive it right now, Mr. Co-Escovedo.
Run it back.
Just run it back, man. I'm going to leave it up to you. Just jump right back into it.
No, we were talking about sanctioning bodies and why they don't recognize. We were talking about what state.
The weight cutting.
The weight cutting.
Right.
Only one of them recognizes it as far as we're going to do a day of fight reweight just to see how much you've gained. I know MMA does it for a lot of shows now, which you can only weigh so much more. A percentage more than what you weighed in at. That was it. So if you weighed in at like 145, if you weigh like 147 to like 148 or something, there's a number. Any more than that, you get in trouble. They're like, because that tells us you cut too much. That tells us you cut massively.
Boxing with that, I don't know if that would ever fly. Just because these guys, I mean, the only time of the 4 sanctioned bodies, WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF, the IBF has a day of weigh-in where if for a title fight you can only weigh X amount of pounds, whatever it is, 10 or 7 or 5 or whatever.
You mean regain?
Regain,
exactly.
excuse me, regain that amount of weight on that weigh-in the next morning or whatever. But other than that, I mean, there's guys that 160 is the weight, and then the next night, I mean, they're 185.
So why do they only do it for title fights too? Like why not across the board? Because they do it for a title fight for reasons. Like there's reasons.
But it's not even, it's just an IBF title fight, like a WBC or WO. Like
That's
like
what
the
I'm saying.
fight.
That's-
No, it's
that's
not.
one
There's
sanctioning
not.
body.
That's one sanctioning of the
Exactly.
four.
Clear across the board.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm saying is if one group's doing it and it's not either, unless they come to us and say, well, it's purely an economical reason. That's why we do it. Unless because it's a safety reason, first off, and it's a fine tuning thing. They want to make sure their fights are safe. They want to make sure both fighters can show up for the fight the next day. They don't want to have a fight canceled because someone cut way too much weight.
Yeah.
So there's that reason. So if they're doing it, A, why aren't you doing it across the board for all the fighters on the card? And B, if you're doing it, why isn't everybody else doing it? Like that gives you so much goodwill. It gives you support. It gives you goodwill. It goes, look, boxing cares about their fighters. Like why not take these steps? Why not? Why do you think what do you think is stopping them?
Well, I think the hardest part in boxing is like there's not one overall sanctioning body.
No, agreed.
Yeah, and that's like why UFC and those things are controlled by one like governing body, if you will. I mean, there's different forms of MMA, right? Different there's UFC, there's Pride, et cetera. Where in boxing it's like there's 4 different, and then each state has their own rules and stuff. So I feel like it's hard.
Exactly. If that was so easy, we would not be robbed of all these great matchups. It's just the governing bodies. Can't we all get along?
Exactly. It's
and promoters, and managers,
IBF, WBA, WBC. Can't we all get along? I mean, let's all hold hands and get along.
And then there's like 5 champions in each division, and there's like a diamond champion, there's an interim champion, there's a gold, silver, copper, bronze, whatever the case.
Exactly.
So it's like, and I know the fighters don't really like it either.
Yeah,
so.
Step aside money champion, which means
sometimes that happens.
Step aside money.
Sometimes that happens. Yeah, that's still going on. And there's mandatories, and then you kind of pay them because there's another fight that could make more money to be made on the side. So those things happen. But I think the biggest issue is that there's not one governing body that oversees everything. It's divided, and that's just what makes each of them different. But I really do think that there needs to be some changes, some adjustments made when it comes to these rules for the weigh-ins. I really do like how I think the UFC, they do the weigh-ins, like they do the weigh-in show, like for the fans, like, but they've already kind of done the weigh-in and whatnot.
Weigh-ins that day, and then you come back later in the day when you're hydrated and put on the show.
Yes, and I do like that because I feel like it looks after what the fighters, the safety of the fighters and everything.
It does. It's hard. I've experienced it firsthand, so I'm kind of drawn on the.
Does it kill the vibe?
That
you feel
part
like?
Doesn't kill it. I think it's better for production value. Is what I would say. You're going to get a lot livelier face-offs. You're going to get more entertaining people on the scale as opposed to just
raw
dying on the scale. You know what I mean?
Like, hurry up and give me my Pedialyte.
So doing the weigh-ins that afternoon and then doing the fun stuff later that night, the official stuff for the fans, I don't think it's necessarily better for the fighters. It's for production value. It's awesome.
Right. But now it's like 2 things you have to do instead of just the one thing, and then you can go off and rest.
That too. It's like once you've done weigh-ins, you're done, you're good. You kind of just want to be done for the day. So as far as the fighters, it's not that great. I mean, it's fun. You feel better. You feel more engaged. Don't get me wrong. And it's better for you in the long run because the UFC always tells you the more engaged you are, the better your brand is. The better. So to be in a better feeling mood. But some guys, they're just like, I'm done for the day, dude. I made weight. I want to go and chill.
We go through that with the fighter meetings too. We sit down with the fighters before or after the weigh-ins to get the notes with the broadcast team exclusive stuff that they're not telling to every reporter with a mic. And sometimes we would schedule them for after the weigh-ins, and fighters wouldn't show up because they're like, we're eating, we're chilling, we're with our family. But we schedule them before, and they're sitting there like, wiping their mouth because they're dry and they're not. And it's hard. So it's
that's
like
where the professionalism falls in. It's like, hey, you're a fighter. You scheduled this. Like, show up and market yourself. Don't bitch later. Don't cry later. Don't cry. Don't cry later when
you're the radio show, not the podcast.
Why don't I get any marketing? Why don't I get any branding? Why don't I get any exposure? Well, it's because you were too busy filling your face, man. Like, this is part of the game. Like, this is part of it. Like this show, I just showed up so I don't get fined. Like, that's cool. Show up so you don't get fined, but I guarantee you, if you show up, you are more likely to answer a question than you were if you didn't show up.
Exactly. So I want to ask you, what do those fight meetings consist of? I mean, what goes on in those fight meetings? Can you share that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the broadcast team, myself and Bo Mack, and we have a different, play-by-play, blow-by-blow right now. We're kind of trying different things out, but on the undercard, and then you have the announcers calling the main fights, and we're all sitting there in a room with the fighter and their chief second trainer manager, whoever it is, and we're really just asking them the questions that we need to prepare for the broadcast and hope that they open up and give us a little bit more because when we're talking about it, the fight's happening, right? So if you're telling us what is your strong point, your weak point, your opponent's not watching this interview. It's no cameras, nothing's being recorded. It's really for just us to get the material that we need to call the fight.
Get a feel for the fighter.
Yeah, and to call the fight and get the game plan to the best of our ability. Because if you ask them at weigh-ins or at press comments, they're not going to say what their game plan is because they don't want everybody to know. But it's really for TV notes and everything like
Japan,
that. Really,
it's different.
How is it there in Japan?
Japan's different. They'd use your interview. Like, we'd interview you.
Yeah.
She'd come in, do the interview and everything. I'd even bring a guy with me to like roll with you. Oh, just go over some moves with the show, some stuff with the film. No, what they're doing is they're feeling you out. Like, they are trying to get an idea of
every edge they can get.
How strong is his ground game? How does his grip feel? Does he feel smooth? Did he feel rigid? How strong did he feel? All this stuff. Like, they act like it's an interview for I think it was like Tokyo Broadcasting Station over there, TBS over there. They'll do an interview, But there's another dude who like doesn't even work for that station. He's just there as part of that thing.
That's why we didn't get the Chuck Liddell interview, because I mean, no. He was getting ready to go in with Tito Ortiz, and he didn't know who was coming in or
that
who's
was
who.
that was a real concern, to be honest. That was
really,
a real concern.
We were going to interview Chuck Liddell, and rumor had it that Tito was sending spies in there as guys who were sparring partners or whatever, just to get any edge.
To watch.
Well, and I believe it because it's so mental.
Oh, did I said that on the radio.
It's super edge. It's super
Let's keep it rolling. Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
super mental.
It's so mental that any little advantage that you can have. And sometimes we get guys in there and they're like, well, you'll see tomorrow night. And then we have to tell them, you know what? Yeah, we'll see. But we want to be able to say, if he's doing this, then everything's going right for him. And they're like, well, you're going to have to just wait and see. Like they don't understand that. It's not because the opponent's going to come in and we're going to be like, guess what? He said he's going to do this, because that does no good for us, you know? So
I would say when you get guys like that, I would just grab their manager or whoever's
the trainer
and go, hey, remind him that if he wants to make money, he needs to be answering my questions. Otherwise, we have no use for him. We're here to do him a favor. Like that's literally when an interview asks you for an interview, just do it. I don't care if it's Las Vegas Review Journal or it's Minnesota Westminster local population 52 newspaper. It doesn't matter. Like an interview is an interview.
You know what you're walking into.
Exactly.
That's what it is. I
like
mean,
just treat it like it's the first.
You don't
one.
just go and give a shout out. It's information that you're sharing for your fans, for your sponsors.
Well, yeah, and these interviews are not taped and they're not on camera. They're simply for the broadcasters to get the information needed to call the fight, you know, the best way possible.
Get you to talk about them, talk about
and if they have a reason, a cause or whatever,
story.
like get a story, whatever, like we want to hear about it. Jose Ramirez, you're going against Freddie Roach instead of him being in your corner in this fight. We want to know, what are your thoughts about facing him across, seeing him across the ring, and things like that we would like him to delve into a little bit more.
Positive ammo you can use on the air to build up the fighter and the character. Exactly.
No rich athlete was ever quiet.
Oh no, absolutely. No,
just leave it at that, guys. Nobody who ever made millions in their sport was quiet.
You market
and the good and some of the elite ones that were never reached their full potential because they didn't utilize those.
They didn't brand themselves. They didn't market themselves.
Yeah, look at Adrian Broner, for example. Not the best fighter, right? Let's just put it out there. But makes a crap ton of money and sells a crap ton of tickets and gets views. Why? Because he does the interviews. He talks. You may not like his persona or his attitude.
People buy tickets to see him get beat, but
it's like the Floyd Mayweather effect,
He did exactly what he wanted.
That's
He knows how to market himself.
That's it.
Kind of over the top, but he markets himself.
But then you get other guys like Miguel Cotto who were really great fighters, had a whole country, but had Puerto Rico, behind him and stuff. But every interview is like, Miguel Cotto, loves to box.
Like Nacho Libre.
And it's like, come on, you know what I mean? Like it could have been even bigger than he was, but it's like if you don't bring the personality, you don't do the interviews, that all doesn't come out.
I thought it was me because I interviewed Miguel Cotto.
He was a tough interview.
His last interview at Wildcard before he went to New York for his last fight, and he has his dog with him, and he just goes, "I like to fight hard." And
hard. And he's like a mega. He's a big name.
So I had to try to dig in.
Maybe he was just nervous about to say something wrong or say something that he'd feel embarrassed about. Maybe he just wasn't a good public speaker. There's lots of, they get gunshot. They're like, I'm good. The less I say, the faster this is over. Because
probably. I mean, you never know. But still, it comes down to marketing. It comes down to, this isn't the first interview in his whole career. So let something loose. Okay?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, what we're doing.
At least if you want to make the money, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything we're doing, it comes from a passion. It comes from a drive and interest in doing it. Just because you are good at punching people in the face, you may not like being in front of a camera or mic. You might get real nervous. Like it might make you super anxiety, and they're just like, whatever gets this over. You know what I mean? And they just got to say, okay, well, you better do really good fights then. Like if you're gonna be that, you better have exciting, jumping off the wall, Spider-Man-esque style fights.
I think. And to that point, you have a guy like Terrence Crawford, right, who has tremendous skills inside the ring, American fighter, top pound for pound fighter, but people are like, why don't you talk crap? Why aren't you controversial? Why don't you, show more personality and stuff in your interviews? It'll make you a bigger star. And some people just want to be who they are. And then I'm a fighter and I'll let my PR take care of that, and I'll just do my job inside the ring. And is that going to affect his pay-per-view sales because he doesn't have that personality? We'll see. Versus like an Adrian Broner who's going to sell on pay-per-view, but is not as good of a fighter as a Terrence Crawford.
Personality and quality inside the ring. Okay, and we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about some top rank events and where we're going right now. Hey, Rich Ortiz here, your host of the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show. We're taking a commercial break to pay our bills. We'll be coming right back.
I'm Bob Arum, and I'm with the Fighter's Voice.
My name is Andre Ward.
Knocking out the competition. Fighters Voice! The Fighters Voice.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, the Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. That's what Ali Setback nicknamed the Fighter's Voice Knockout Radio Show. Once again, our guest, the beautiful Crystina Poncher. I wanted to make sure I say it right.
You said it right.
I know, and you know what I was told? Don't chop it up because she'll let you know.
You said it right.
All right, I want to make sure I say it right. We're taking commercial break and we're talking about interviews. I want to ask you, what was one of your toughest interviews where your answers are like, okay. I mean, they really didn't get into detail. How did you pull it out of them?
Miguel Cotto, who we mentioned before, he was a tough interview. Sometimes he would speak in the, is it first person when someone's like Miguel Cotto trained really hard, but it's Miguel Cotto talking. Yeah, sometimes he would do that. And
Ramsey's is number one.
And that
we need more TOs in the league. Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. That was a hard interview. I think just some of the harder interviews and stuff were things like we alluded to earlier was with language barriers. Athletes that didn't that I didn't speak their language and they didn't speak mine. It just was real blanket, real general answers. I think for the most part, people have given me my respect and they understand, where I come from and that I do my homework and I'm not just, hey, here's the girl with, eyelashes and
a
lipstick and a mic, And so I feel like I ask thoughtful questions and they give me thoughtful answers. So I've been pretty lucky in that sense, but he usually is one of the first people that come to mind just because he just wouldn't even smile. Like I'm smiling when I'm asking questions, even though it's serious where I'm, and it just was like stoic. That was tough because he was one of the bigger stars when I was first starting in boxing, and I just couldn't break him. It was hard.
You ask fighters all the time what drives you, and I want to ask you, what drives you to be the best that you can be? What continues to drive you?
For me, I think representing for other women and doing it in the right way in a very male dominated industry in sports. I feel like it's really tough. I think a lot of women are stuck on the sidelines or given a mic because they're like, well, we need a woman on the broadcast, so let's add somebody. And I think what drives me is just I want to do well so that the people that are coming up behind me, the younger girls that are in college that are in broadcasting, that are like, I can do that, or I want to be a commentator, or I want to be a reporter, and I can carry myself like Crystina, or I can do better than her. That pushes me and that drives me because I feel like I'm setting an example. There's only been one other female blow-by-blow commentator in boxing that I know of, and that's Claudia Trejos, who's been an idol and a mentor to me, and I looked up to her. And now being able to put the headset on and sit in that lead role and be not only a color commentator, a reporter, but now do blow by blow. I'm just getting started, but I think that those are all things to show people. Look, she started on her lunch break doing interviews at a press conference, and now she's got the headset on and she's commentating, male championship boxing. Like, for me, that's a big deal, and I think that drives me because I want other people behind me to be able to say I can do it too. And that's really what it is. I went to school for this. This is my dream. This is my passion, and everybody has something that they want to pursue, and the fact that I'm able to live it, I just can't let it go. I have to keep going.
Almost like a champion. Now that you got your belt, you got to continue to defend it every single broadcast that comes out.
It's true, and I'm going to be criticized no matter what. And the social media day, I mean, as you know, and being a fighter, you're never gonna have people that are always like supportive of you. There's always something you're doing wrong. Whether you executed a game plan, won the fight. There's always gonna be people out there that
could have hit every 3-point, every jab, every takedown. And they're gonna be like, oh yeah, but do you see his kicks?
Yeah.
Do you see his dribble? Like, come on, bro. Get off the couch.
There's always going to be something. And for me, it's like, a woman's voice on the broadcast. Like, it could be something just my voice because I'm a woman and not a man.
Yeah, that's where personal ignorant bias plays a part there, because they're not saying, oh, it's this guy they don't know what they're talking about. I've seen so many commentators, man or woman, doesn't matter. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop. Get them off. They don't know what they're talking about.
And when they say, how could she call boxing? She's never boxed a day in her life. Okay, let's line up all the boxing commentators. And other than your ex-fighters, some of the greatest boxing commentators of all time have never boxed. Exactly. It doesn't mean that just because you've never done it, you're just coming from a different perspective. No, I don't know what it's like to be in there. And that's why I have, Brian McIntyre or a Tim Bradley or an Andre Ward that we can ask those questions to. I'm not coming off like I know exactly. I just study, I ask the questions, and I express my knowledge.
Yeah.
Great balance. And you put a strong team together, and you guys work together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's about. It's just like fighters have a team. We have a team. We all have our strengths. We all have ways that we play off each other, just like you guys do on the show.
Supporting roles.
That's it.
Supporting
it.
roles, and it goes a long way.
Like
That's it.
boxing knowledge, like he so much. He knows more than I'll ever learn. Like he's forgotten it inside. Every time
what
he's got
you've
knowledge.
done and been in there in your
Exactly.
experience.
So it's a balance. Exactly.
So yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm not exactly because you're saying that. I'm saying exactly because the balance.
Yeah, exactly.
The strong point of all the UFC fighters when they come here, I don't want to be lost. You know, I don't want to not have a person on the show because I can't really acknowledge their skill or their practice. So Koa Scavito, actually, when he came on the show, he was a guest the very first time.
Yeah.
And when we met, we did color commentary together, right? I was ringing out cage announcing, come from the cage, then I had to put the headset on.
Back
we
and
just
forth,
jumped,
yeah.
going
Wow.
back and forth.
Wow.
He had double duty that night.
And it's the fighter's voice. That doesn't. It's not the
Exactly.
boxer's voice. It's not the MMA. It's the fighter's voice. And there's, you know, I mean, that can be even brought. There's a fighter in a lot of people that don't physically put on gloves, or you know, there's fighters everywhere. And
She
there's,
gets it.
Let her. No, keep going.
I mean,
No, really,
there's
keep
people
going.
like the fight on Sunday. I mean, they're fighting. There's going to be fighters in that arena because they're fighting against cancer. There's people that are fight. I mean, there's a fight in everybody, and that's something that I think makes this show and everything resonate with people because you're speaking from experience, you're speaking from the heart, they're speaking for what they do, and people fight battles to put food on the table for their family. So a fighter, it embodies more than just the people that actually do it for a paycheck. People can be fighters to fight every day to wake up and you know put the right shoe on the right foot. So I think it's awesome, your platform and what you guys do, and I'm glad to be here. So,
ladies and gentlemen, and those that follow the fighter's voice, I did not tell her to say that. And what we do is I had
yeah, right. He said the check was in the mail.
I had a guy fighting cancer on the show. You know, and that was our whole thing, even before any of this. The fighter's voice means, hey, you're fighting for your divorce. You're fighting to make car payments. No, I'm keeping it real. You're fighting to get to work on time. Every fighter has a voice, and so do you. You don't have to put a mouthpiece in and get your hands wrapped to be on the show. Everybody's a fighter. We even had a guy that was fighting for a seat on council. I had him on the show, and I'm thinking, how am I going to mix it up?
Yeah, how do you play that in?
And the way I did it is I said, when Sugar Ray Leonard fought, he had Marvin Hagler, he had Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran to push him that extra mile. So I said, who's your Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and Marvin Hagler? In
That's
office,
perfect. That's a great question. It's
So
a great way
he
to
attacked
turn
it.
to turn it toward your audience to still
Exactly.
make it appeal
We had to make
to your
it work.
audience. Yeah,
We had to make it work.
Yep.
And we got a young man, I'm going to acknowledge him, Jeff the engineer. He's going to be coming on the show in the future. He's a rap artist. So I got to make it work somehow, some way. And I love the challenge. And I just want to give him the platform to be heard, just like anybody that's fighting something. He's fighting to try to get a record deal. He's trying to fight to get as much as he can and give him the opportunity because every fighter has a voice and
Gotta
we're
get
giving
your
it to
foot
him.
in the door somewhere. Sometimes you got to
Absolutely.
shove your foot in the door. That's the
Well, you
hard
got to
part.
go pounding that door.
kick it down.
Yeah.
You got to go violate that circle of success. No means yes unless you're on a date.
Let's leave that for another segment.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, you're gonna get a call from HR all of a sudden going, all right.
All of a sudden.
You had Poncher, now all of a sudden it's like no means yes unless
No.
you're on.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to tell you no.
Hashtag me
Yeah,
too.
no,
yeah.
Tell you no.
everybody's
Yeah.
gonna tell you no.
And on a date, no means no.
No, usually if they give you the answer quickly, it's usually a no. It's when they take a minute to have to actually say to ponder. It's because when they have to ponder, they're like, well, hold on.
Or when
okay,
they breathe.
That actually makes sense. Like, hold on, maybe that does make me money. Let me think about this. What don't I like about it? Okay, we can change this, we can change this, and it still makes me money. Okay, let me hear more. You know what I mean? Then they're sold.
Yeah.
Now you convince them they're going to make money.
Yeah. You know, money is important, very important, but sometimes, honestly, it's not everything. I want to ask you, and it's a personal question, what's everything to you?
What's everything?
Yeah.
My family.
What's your world? Okay.
I mean, my career, I work hard for my career and where I've been, but at the end of the day, I'm under a contract. And if my contract expires and they decided that they were going to go in a different direction tomorrow, I would go home and I would still be mom to Kingston, wife to Jermaine, daughter to Scott and Zarina. You know what I mean? Like that's what matters. That's everything.
And you don't got to get behind the microphone to embrace what you love. I want to ask you, if you had your own radio show, what would you call it?
I don't know. I've never thought about having my own radio show.
You should. You should.
I enjoy it. I wouldn't have to do all this makeup and stuff that I have to do for camera. I could just sit there, tie my hair up in my
There you
sweats.
go.
You know, if I got my son right here in the stroller, I could just
Oh,
do
yeah, there
what
you
I
go. Double
do what I
duty.
had
Hey,
to.
I've
Multitask.
seen like
You know,
Wall Street level
I-
interviews done like that. So
I don't know, in Christina's corner or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I would tie it to boxing because I've done NFL, I've done college basketball.
exactly.
You know,
You
I
gotta
don't
really
know what
piece
I would
that
call
one.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, rapping with CP. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like
Who
that.
knows?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about when you did NFL and how it's different from boxing as far as the personnel. I mean, you interview athletes,
yes,
but you're passionate about boxing fighters as opposed to football players.
I mean, I'm passionate about sports in general. Boxing really just fell in my lap.
Okay.
But the biggest difference between interviewing NFL athletes and interviewing boxers is it's a team sport versus an individual sport. So when I'm working NFL, there's various people on the team that I can interview about a performance. It doesn't have to just be the quarterback or the running back, or it could be a DB, or it could be coach. You have different angles, different where to go. There's always a different story to tell. But in boxing, it's like if a guy gets knocked out, it's all on that guy. I mean, yes, you have a team, you have a trainer, but it's like one athlete, and everything is on that athlete. So there's a big difference just in terms of the dynamic and the preparation. And even there's like a handful of very well-known fighters, but there's a ton of very well-known football players. And the egos for those professional athletes are different than the egos. We have some of the richest fighters, and they don't have the same ego as a lesser-known NFL player, just because it's the exposure of the National Football League versus fighters.
I think background has a lot of variables to do with that. Majority of your well-placed fighters tend to have come from a support my family start background, whereas like football players or most professional athletes tend to be I just had a passion for it when I was little. Yeah. I loved it. I wanted to be a quarterback. I saw Joe Montana on TV. I wanted to do that. I thought I could do that. Like that drive to do whatever they believed in was that drive, where a lot of fighters probably come from more of I had to pay the bills. That's, you know what I mean? So you get, I think different backgrounds become the variables there that dictate that a little bit.
I hear you. I'm feeling you. Who's your favorite football team?
My favorite football team is the Chargers.
Chargers?
Yeah,
I mean, they almost made it.
Yeah,
Chargers.
I know. Well, they were the San Diego Chargers. My grandfather, I grew up in Orange County, and he's a season ticket holder since I was young. So the Rams and Raiders weren't here when I was going to football games. They had already left Los Angeles. I said here, like I'm in SoCal still, but you know what I mean. I don't want to talk about the Raiders. Do not bring, bring up any of my, AFC West rivals. But
they're moving, right?
They're still moving. They're moving to Vegas. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the Chargers. But
who's your favorite fighter?
I don't have a favorite fighter.
I know. Good answer. Good answer.
I don't have a favorite answer.
Okay. What's the most exciting division right now in boxing?
That's tough. I mean, I think the welterweight division is probably the most talented, the most exciting division right now. I think 147. I think
that's
really
welterweight
exciting
for boxing.
Yeah, 147.
Yeah, I would have said.
What's welterweight in UFC?
I was thinking like 169 and 170. And I was going to say is usually it's like that 165 to 185 range is where I find your most dangerous athlete, because they're both big like the light heavyweight, so they can hit you pretty hard, but they're still smaller, so they're still quick, agile. Look at Woodley. Look at guys like him. Look at guys like Koshtek and things like that. They just were small and they moved real fast, and they just hit hard. And it's like, dude, you hit like a light heavyweight, but you're moving like a featherweight. What are you doing? He's like, dude.
And in boxing, when you're at 168, 175, those are like the higher weight classes, and then heavyweight. So 147 is like that middle. That's close to that middle ground. Yeah, because you're talking about from 118, 112, 118 up to, heavyweight could be over 200 or whatever. So 147, I feel like at 154 even is that kind of like middle.
Dude, I walk around at that, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, we can get you in the ring.
But then you'd fight at like, if you walked around 147, you'd probably fight at like 126. It's like how the boxers or 135 or 135. I'm telling you, these guys, I mean, the good ones, the guys that are like all around athletes that keep their body in shape 24/7, maybe they go up 10 or 15 pounds when they're fighting weight, but most guys are like up 20 pounds at least from where they fight.
I usually drop about 20 for fight.
And talking about fight, we had Lee Samuels on the show, and he was
Hall of Famer.
Yes, exactly.
Our publicist,
he was trying to get Cole in the ring. He said, "I know you got some in you, kid."
Yeah,
just
trying to guinea
put
pig
the boxing gloves on.
Dude, I got a 72-inch reach. I don't know. I've always been a proponent of long arm fighters. I know it is.
That'll help you. I'm like, that's 72-inch reach is nice.
Tommy Hearns jab there.
And you don't have to worry about getting taken down or kicked, dude. That you can extend that reach out to like a good 75 inches.
Just don't kick nobody. Have a flashback.
That's
and
what
kick
I'm
somebody.
saying. I've seen it happen. I've seen it. Dude got in a corner, gripped him, kneed him, and they were like, "That's it.
Well,
fight's
that's what
over."
I was thinking with the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight. I'm like, is Conor just gonna all of a sudden
he got a couple
like
punches behind the head?
Yeah,
Though.
like you're gonna do.
Dude, here's the easy take on that. So many people ask me the same thing. They're like, "Do you think he's gonna mess up?" And my same answer to that is, have you ever seen him throw an illegal blow in an MMA fight? And they go, well, it's different. I go, how? If the adrenaline's pumping and everything's going, and you know you're not supposed to drop a 12 to 6 elbow, or you know you're not supposed to elbow in the back of the head, or whatever, you still have managed to abide by those rules when it's guns blazing, all balls out to the wall kind of thing. So people, and I told them that they just didn't get it. And I'm like, it's self-control, self-control. He's
Discipline.
not going to knee him in the face.
Yeah.
The guy who I saw did that. It was a farm league level show.
Oh gosh,
and
here we go.
Juicehead McGree just grabbed him and just kneed him in the head. So,
I thought you were talking about our highlight on the radio show where the guy's already knocked out. Cole knocks this guy, he's out, and Cole just came over the top and in the air, and he said, "I can't." He said, "I can't stop when I'm in the air." But okay, the
Get a faster ref. I don't know.
The heat of the battle. The heat of the battle.
But yeah, well, because here's the thing. He bounced. I've done it. I've gotten dropped and got right back up. So to see him hit the ground, and all I could picture was my worst nightmare is he hits the ground, I pause, and he gets right back up. And I'm like, great, I had my window. There was your window, Cole. You blew it. So no.
Yeah, you got a job to do.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to mix it up here. We got Brad Goodwin coming on. He just texted me. He's on his way here. I'm going to put the matchmaker hat on you. What's your dream matchup?
Right now with active fighters?
Sure, we can go right now, and then we could just go from yesterday to today.
I mean, I'd like to see Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. I think that's a fight that I want to see.
What would you have it at?
I want to see Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. I mean, there's a couple, good fights. I'd like to see Mikey Garcia versus Vasily Lomachenko. I'd like to see, those are like the fights that come to mind right away when you talk about dream matchups, because those are some of the most skilled fighters at their weight classes right now that are champions that, it's hard with, promotional companies or whatnot. But if you're asking me like dream matchups, those are some fights that I'd like to see right now.
So if you can go in the past, if you could take like a Sugar Ray Leonard and bring him back here, or I'm going to allow you to do that. What's your dream match?
Gosh, that's hard.
And you can mix them.
That's hard.
I mean, you could even stay back there. I mean, like Joe Frazier never fought Kenny Norton. I would want to see that.
I mean, what about Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones?
That'd be interesting.
I mean,
actually.
because
at 200 pounds,
you see, I don't know at what weight. I mean, Roy Jones would go up to heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he would. He had the balls to do that. So, but I mean, I look at those guys as like just vicious. Like I'll fight anybody. And Tyson was not like the most skilled like boxer, but he was just the boogeyman, like knocking people out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to like see those two mix it up. I would have liked to see like Pacquiao against Sugar Ray Leonard or something like that. That might have been cool.
Another fast guy.
Two fast guys that are slick. Pernell Whitaker versus like Floyd Mayweather, because his defense, like how slick that he was.
That's mine. Also, Floyd Mayweather and Roberto Duran.
Yeah, see, that would have been. I mean, there's.
But like
Roberto Duran, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
That would have been.
They're both super defensive, right?
But somebody has to take the initiative.
Exactly what I'm saying is, how long do you think that fight just kind of goes?
Somebody has to win. Somebody has to win.
Think it becomes a tag match at that point?
Someone has to win. Hey, we can bring the baby on. This is our radio show. We can do whatever we want.
I think he's hungry. He needs to eat.
Okay. Let me know, because we have our agenda is your agenda.
I appreciate it, and you got the matchmaker coming in who kind of puts like the great card we have Sunday together.
Let's talk about that.
He's got stacked top to bottom with really great fighters, but he's gonna have some good stuff for you coming up too. But Sunday ESPN is 4:00. The two co-main and main events start. The co-main event, Ray Beltran, who is moving up to 140, is fighting Hiroki Okada, who is undefeated, who fought his first fight ever in the United States here in Fresno back in September. And then the main event is Jose Ramirez taking on Jose Zepeda. Jose Ramirez defending his title at 140 for the second time. But I mean, top to bottom, we have a whole undercard broadcast on ESPN Plus starting at 1:00 with, former Olympians, championship contenders, up and coming, fighters. You've had Vences on the show many times. Yes. Andy, you have Gabe Flores. I mean, it's just every fight has a guy whose name that you've heard of or you need to know about. So they really did, Brad, and they did a really good job putting an awesome card here for Fresno together. Yeah,
Rig does a great job. The community backs him up, supports him. I want to mention one other guy. He's kind of the hitting guy on there, but he's getting ready to just unleash, and that's Fresno's own with the birth certificate. Isidro Ochoa.
Yes. I like that kid a lot. I like his smile. I like his style. Sometimes if you don't come from a huge media market, you don't get all the attention coming up as some of the other guys do, out in LA or New York or on the smaller circuits. But I'm excited to see him, and he's in a 6-rounder. It's the second fight in. It'll be streaming live on ESPN Plus. So download that if you don't have it already. But I like the kid a lot. I'm looking forward to calling his fight.
Plug.
Exactly. I mean, you got to get it in. You know what I mean? But the only way you're going to be able to see him fight unless you get to the Save Mart Center.
Now, see, that was going to be one of my questions is how do you see, because UFC just made the move to ESPN Plus.
Yes,
from a commentator standpoint, a TV exposure, a brand, a marketing, things like that. How do you see that effect? How do you see that change helping or hurting them? I've already seen, like, for example, I come from a casino, a bar and restaurant. We almost weren't going to be able to show like UFC fight nights. We almost weren't going to be able to show something if it was going to be on ESPN Plus. We had to have like a last minute negotiation with, I think, like Joanne Promotions or something to try to find a way to negotiate so we can be like grandfathered into the existing, you know, distributor or whatever. So how do you think that might hurt, or do you think it might change? Do you think it's going to be good? Because ESPN Plus, they came from Fox. They made that transition over entirely. So where do you think that's going to land them?
Well, I think for ESPN Plus, I mean, if you have a smart TV, most people are like, oh, that means I have to watch everything on my phone or my tablet. No, you have almost every TV now, at least, is a smart TV. So all you have to do is you can go online and then on your TV and pull it up, you know, right there. I think since UFC has joined on to ESPN Plus, they've grown their fan base and their subscribers, like, I think by hundreds of thousands since they've come over. But I don't really know how that works with like bars and restaurants as far as the streaming service. I don't know if they have smart TVs, if they can.
If there's like a block. They started kind of blocking us out, and that's what we're concerned was, because most of it, I don't think they thought about that like when they did it, because a lot of bars and restaurants and off-site casinos and stuff, they show that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden it just was no more. You have to be like a private homeowner to get a subscription type thing. Yeah,
so hopefully they work that part out so that you can still be out there and, you know, watching. If not, then just be in the bar, I guess, on your cell phone and have it, you know, right there, because you can, everywhere you go, everyone's on their phone anyway. So, you know, we were at a wedding like 2 weekends ago. No, I mean, it was like my husband's best friend's wedding, but I'm right there like with my phone at the table, I'm right there watching the fight because I can. But I can now.
But in the long run, do you see, just real quick, in the long run, do you see things like that where subscription viewing, things like that, but do you see it potentially hurting ticket sales in the long run of physical venues? If I can watch a 70-inch screen TV and have ESPN Plus HD 1080p stream, you know, watch it live on my thing and just watch it because it's a subscription. I get to watch the fight instead of being there physically. Do you see there might be a corresponding cause and effect to ticket sales overall when you start expanding that home media, tablet, you're expanding that market to really watch it on the go, watch it anywhere? Well, now I don't have to watch it live at the stadium. I can watch it at home.
I think the feeling and the vibe of being in an arena or being at a live sporting event, there's nothing like it.
Exactly. So you think that will still,
I
smell, it will still,
yes, I do. Cool. Especially for the big events, especially for the big fights. I don't think that's ever going to change or go away. I think that maybe smaller shows, but there's nothing like being there and being part of it.
It's a different.
You're talking Super Bowl. The tickets are like tens of thousands of dollars. Then okay, I'm gonna stay home. But to a boxing match,
if Super Bowl was pay per view.
Or for a boxing, you know that.
Yeah. Hey, talking about paying some. Hey, knock those bills out.
Man, let's pay some bills real quick. Mics on, lights on. So Dye and Breed Apparel, guys, like they make our shirts, they make our hats, they make our hats. Remember, we got those for sale, guys. Yes. Bobby Salsa, always delicious. Check it out.
Salsa. Some
Salsa, amigo.
There you go. I love it.
My
Ramses is number one. Remember, check them out in your groceries, guys. Jenna's been pumping them heavy. I love the little spot commercials. Those are great. Dr. Batista and Dr. Guzman, North Fresno Primary Care. Remember fighters, EKGs, neuros, blood work, all that stuff. CSAC, you got to deal with them.
They gave out the checks yesterday. Remember that?
See? You got
the doctors that gave out the checks yesterday.
Dr. Batista,
They got one of them. Yes. Miles Harris Esquire. Remember, we had him also. As always, guys, remember, you need strong defense, criminal, felony, drug, custody, you name it. Real lawyer, scary stuff. Hit him up. Down on Kern Street. Look him up. I'm going to make you research him a little. And as always, Mad Production Studios. This place is gorgeous, dude.
Yes.
And this is awesome.
Thumbs up for Richie as always, man.
Thumbs up for Richie Promotions. I'm going to do something different. I want to make sure that I get this in here. So as always, I dedicate this show to my son. Every breath of fresh air that comes out, I dedicate to you, Richie. Thumbs up for Richie. But the different thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let you take us out. Closing. Use all your experience, all your knowledge, and what you do the best. Take us home.
For Cole and Richie, I'm Crystina Poncher. Thank you to everybody for joining us on The Fighter's Voice. Remember, you don't have to be a fighter to have a voice.
There it is. There.
Out of the park!
Never down for the count. It's just another wrap. Thanks for listening to The Fighter's Voice Radio Show. Catch us again next week.
Same when, same how.
And always stay connected to The Fighter's Voice on social media. So, on behalf of Richard Ortiz, Cole Escovedo, our special guests, and the whole crew right here at The Fighter's Voice Radio Show, saying see ya next week, right here on The Fighter's Voice.